For hundreds of years, people have looked up at these walls in awe. They've survived wars, revolutions, and time itself. This is part 6 of the most impressive cathedrals in the world. Our journey begins in northeastern France, in the historic city of Metz. Rising above the Moselle River stands the Cathédrale Saint-Étienne de Metz. Construction began in the early 13th century, during a period when Metz was a prosperous and influential city within the Holy Roman Empire. Over the next 3 centuries, generations of builders, craftsmen and artists contributed to the structure. The long construction period resulted in a cathedral that reflects evolving architectural styles while maintaining a powerful Gothic identity. The exterior of Metz Cathedral is defined by scale and verticality. Its nave rises to nearly 42 metres or 138 feet, placing it among the tallest in Europe. Massive flying buttresses support the walls, allowing for unprecedented expanses of glass. Built from locally quarried Jaumont stone, the cathedral's facade takes on a warm golden colour that changes with the light, giving the structure a commanding yet luminous presence in the city skyline. Inside, the cathedral reveals its most extraordinary feature: light. It contains the largest surface area of stained glass of any cathedral in the world, covering more than 6,500 square metres or 70,000 square feet. These windows span 8 centuries, from medieval glasswork to modern compositions. The interior space feels both vast and ethereal. Slender columns and ribbed vaults draw the eye upward, while daylight floods the nave, creating an atmosphere of openness rarely found in Gothic churches. Today, Metz Cathedral stands not only as a place of worship, but as a testament to centuries of artistic ambition and technical mastery. Our journey now takes us east, to the heart of the Philippines, to its bustling capital, Manila. Within the historic walled city of Intramuros, we find a cathedral that embodies the unconquerable spirit of its people. This is the minor Basilica and Metropolitan Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. The story of Manila Cathedral begins in 1581, during the early years of Spanish colonization in the Philippines. Since then, the cathedral has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times due to earthquakes, fires, and war. In fact, the structure standing today is the 8th version of the cathedral, completed in 1958 after it was almost entirely levelled during the Battle of Manila in World War II. Built primarily in a neo-Romanesque style, the facade is defined by rounded arches, heavy stone walls, and a sense of solid balance. At its centre stands a large bronze door adorned with relief sculptures depicting key moments in the cathedral's history. The bell tower rises prominently beside the structure, housing bells that have echoed through Intramuros for generations. The interior is spacious and symmetrical, with a long central nave leading the eye toward the high altar. Massive columns line the nave, supporting a vaulted ceiling that emphasizes height and grandeur without overwhelming the space. Unlike highly ornate Gothic cathedrals, Manila Cathedral's beauty lies in its clarity and balance. Marble floors, carved altars, and carefully placed artworks contribute to a solemn, dignified environment designed for reflection and worship. The cathedral is a living monument to survival, having endured natural disasters, colonial rule, and war. We now travel north to the vibrant and historic port city of Amsterdam. Directly opposite the city's bustling central station, we find a grand and imposing church that seems to watch over the waterfront. This is the Basilica of St. Nicholas. The Co-Cathedral was constructed between 1884 and 1887, during a time when Catholics in the Netherlands were emerging from centuries of restriction. Dedicated to St. Nicholas, the patron saint of sailors and travellers, the basilica was fittingly placed near the city's harbour, welcoming those arriving by land and sea. The exterior of the basilica is an impressive blend of neo-Baroque and neo-Renaissance styles. Built of red brick with natural stone details, the facade is dominated by twin towers and a large central dome that rises above the busy cityscape. Rich ornamentation, arched windows and sculptural details give the building a sense of grandeur and movement. The interior is richly decorated. Marble columns, gilded altars and colourful frescoes fill the space with warmth and reverence. The central dome draws the eye upward, emphasising verticality and light, while stained glass windows cast soft colours across the nave. At the heart of the basilica stands the high altar, dedicated to St. Nicholas, whose image reinforces the church's connection to travellers, merchants and seafarers, long central to Amsterdam's identity. In 2012, the church was elevated to the status of a minor basilica, recognising its historical, architectural and spiritual significance. Our grand tour now takes us to Southeast Asia, to the vibrant, bustling capital of Vietnam. In the Hanoi's historic Old Quarter, we find an unexpected and striking sight. This is St. Joseph's Cathedral, known to locals as Na Tho Lon, or the Big Church. The cathedral was completed in 1886, during the period of French colonial rule in Vietnam. Built on the site of an earlier Catholic church, the cathedral reflects the spread of European religious architecture into Asia in the 19th century. Modelled after medieval Gothic churches of Europe, it became the centre of Roman Catholic worship in northern Vietnam and remains the seat of the Archdiocese of Hanoi. The exterior of St. Joseph's Cathedral is immediately commanding. Its two square bell towers rise nearly 31 metres or 102 feet, framing a large central clock and a facade strongly reminiscent of Notre Dame in Paris. Built from stone and brick, the weathered grey surface gives the structure a solemn, time-worn character. The cathedral's interior is long and narrow, shaped by rows of massive columns that lead the eye toward the altar. What makes the interior especially distinctive is the blending of European structure with Vietnamese religious expression. Traditional lacquered wood, gold accents and local decorative elements appear around the altar and chapels, creating a unique fusion of cultures. Today, St. Joseph is more than a historical monument. It is a living place of worship and a gathering point for the Catholic community of Hanoi. We now journey south to the sun-drenched island nation of Malta in the heart of the Mediterranean Sea. In the heart of Valletta, Malta's fortified capital, stands St. John's Co-Cathedral. Construction began in 1573, shortly after the Great Siege of Malta, when the knights sought to assert their authority and devotion through architecture. Completed in just 5 years, St. John's was designed by Maltese architect Girolamo Cassar. In 1816, it was elevated to the status of Co-Cathedral, sharing the seat of the Archbishop of Malta. Built from local limestone, the facade is symmetrical and fortress-like, reflecting Malta's defensive architecture. Two bell towers flank a central entrance, while clean lines and minimal ornamentation give little indication of the splendor waiting inside. Stepping into the interior reveals one of the richest Baroque spaces in Europe. Every surface is decorated. The marble floor is composed of more than 400 intricately inlaid tombstones, each marking a knight of the order and telling a story of rank, origin and legacy. Above, the walls and vaulted ceiling are covered in elaborate carvings, gilded details and dramatic frescoes depicting scenes from the life of St. John the Baptist. St. John's Co-Cathedral stands as both a sacred space and a cultural monument. It embodies the intersection of faith, power and art that shaped Malta's history. We travel now to the East African coast, to the island of Zanzibar, Stone Town. Here we find Christ Church Cathedral. Its story is one of the most poignant and powerful of any cathedral in the world. The cathedral was built in the late 19th century on the site of Zanzibar's former slave market, once one of the largest in East Africa. Construction began in 1873, shortly after the abolition of the slave trade in Zanzibar, under the direction of Anglican missionaries. The cathedral was consecrated in 1879, intentionally placed where human suffering had once been most visible. The exterior reflects a blend of Gothic Revival architecture and local influences. Built from coral stone, the structure is modest in scale, but deeply symbolic. Its tall spire rises above Stone Town's narrow streets, acting as both a spiritual beacon and a historical marker. Arched windows, buttresses and pointed doorways give the building a distinctly European form, while the weathered stone connects it firmly to the Swahili coastal environment. The interior is simple and restrained, encouraging reflection rather than grandeur. Slender columns support pointed arches, guiding the eye toward the altar. Light filters through stained glass windows depicting scenes of peace, freedom, and Christian teaching. One window is dedicated to David Livingstone, the explorer and abolitionist whose campaign against the slave trade helped inspire the cathedral's construction. The cathedral does not impress through size or ornament, but through meaning. We return to Central Europe, to the historic city of Wroclaw in western Poland. Here, on a tranquil island, stands a building that embodies the resilient spirit of the Polish nation. This is the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. The origins of the cathedral date back to the 10th century, when the first church was built on this site following the Christianization of Poland. The present Gothic structure was largely constructed between the 13th and 14th centuries, reflecting Wrocław's importance as a major religious and commercial centre in medieval Europe. The cathedral's exterior is immediately striking. Its twin spires rise to nearly 98 metres or 321 feet, making them among the tallest church towers in Poland. Built of red brick in the brick Gothic style characteristic of Northern Europe, the facade conveys strength and verticality. Flying buttresses, pointed arches and narrow windows emphasize height, while the cathedral's riverside setting enhances its dramatic silhouette, especially at dusk when the towers dominate the skyline. Inside, the atmosphere shifts from monumental to deeply contemplative. Ribbed vaults stretch overhead, reinforcing the sense of upward movement typical of Gothic architecture. Light enters through stained glass windows, many of which were reconstructed after severe damage during World War II, when the cathedral was nearly destroyed during the siege of Wrocław in 1945. The main altar, reconstructed after the war, stands as a symbol of renewal and continuity. Wrocław Cathedral earns its place among the most impressive cathedrals in the world, an enduring testament to faith, architecture and survival. Our tour now crosses the Atlantic to the United States, to the relentless energy of New York City. Here, perched on a high ridge, we find a cathedral of monumental ambition and scale. This is the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, affectionately nicknamed St. John the Unfinished. Construction of the cathedral began in 1892, during a period when New York City was emerging as a global metropolis. Its long construction history includes shifts in architectural style, economic hardship, world wars, and changing artistic visions, making the cathedral a living record of American history. A blend of Romanesque revival and Gothic revival styles, the cathedral features massive stone walls, soaring tower, and intricately carved portals. The west facade is particularly striking, dominated by a monumental rose window and richly sculpted biblical scenes. Entering the interior reveals an overwhelming sense of scale. The nave stretches nearly 200 meters or 656 feet in length, making it one of the longest church interiors in the world. Towering columns and high vaults draw the eye upward, creating a powerful impression of vertical space and light. The Great Rose Window, one of the largest in the world, stands as a centerpiece of craftsmanship and symbolism. Today, St. John the Divine stands as a cathedral not frozen in time, but continuously shaped by it. Our tour now returns to England, to the gentle green countryside of Somerset. Here, we find what many consider to be the most poetic of all English cathedrals. This is Wells Cathedral. Construction began around 1175 and continued into the early 14th century. Unlike many European cathedrals built over several centuries with dramatic stylistic changes, Wells was largely completed within a relatively short period. This resulted in a rare sense of architectural consistency. The exterior of the cathedral is most famous for its west facade, often described as one of the greatest in Europe. Rather than emphasizing height, the facade focuses on sculptural storytelling. More than 300 medieval statues cover the surface, depicting kings, bishops, saints, and biblical figures. Twin towers rise on either side, framing the facade without overpowering it, while the warm local stone gives the cathedral a soft, almost golden appearance. Inside, the cathedral reveals a space of refined elegance. Slender columns and pointed arches guide the eye forward, creating a sense of rhythm and calm. One of the most distinctive features is the set of scissor arches beneath the central tower. Installed in the 14th century to prevent structural collapse, these dramatic X-shaped arches are both an engineering solution and a striking visual statement. The chapter house, reached by a graceful staircase, displays exquisite ribbed vaulting and stained glass, further highlighting the craftsmanship of the period. Today, Wells Cathedral stands as a masterpiece of balance rather than excess. Its beauty lies in harmony, proportion, and human scale. We now heading to magnificent Italian destination, the eternal city of Rome. Here we encounter a basilica of supreme importance. The true Cathedral of Rome is the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran. Often called the Mother of all churches, it is the oldest and highest-ranking of the four papal basilicas, holding a unique place in Christian history. The cathedral was originally founded in the 4th century by Emperor Constantine, shortly after Christianity was legalized in the Roman Empire. Unlike St. Peter's Basilica, which serves as a global symbol, St. John Lateran remains the Pope's official ecclesiastical seat, a centre of authority and ceremony for the worldwide Catholic Church. The exterior of the cathedral today reflects Baroque grandeur. Its wide steps lead to a monumental facade designed by Alessandro Galilei in the early 18th century. Corinthian columns, statues of the 12 apostles, and a central pediment create a sense of balance, dignity, and authority. Stepping inside, the cathedral's interior is both vast and awe-inspiring. A wide central nave stretches forward, flanked by elegant aisles and towering Corinthian columns. Rich marble floors, gilded altars, and ornate frescoes convey the artistic legacy of centuries. The baldachin over the main altar, a masterpiece of Baroque sculpture, draws the eye upward, emphasizing both spiritual and architectural grandeur. St. John Lateran also houses chapels and relics of immense historical significance, including the Sancta Sanctorum, the chapel that once contained some of the most revered relics of early Christianity. More than a cathedral, St. John Lateran represents the continuity of faith through time.